All right, here we are. It's another day. I have my tiki here. The latex house paint skin has dried on it pretty good. I've gone ahead and trimmed up the edges here where there were some overhangs and some bits that I just didn't want. A few sharp edges from where the paper overlapped and the paint didn't smooth it. I've trimmed that a little bit too. And I've mixed up a little pot here of green paint. My entire tiki is going to be green. I find you get the best, most interesting results for painting your tiki when you mix colors. So I'm sure there is green paint out there that's just fantastic. But my green is made by taking some yellow paint and putting some blue paint in it until it arrived at the color that I like. And well, here it is. It's I don't know. It's kind of almost a drab paint, which is good, because I want the base color to be very earthy and green. That's very in keeping with the theme of tiki. So I'm going to just lay on this. This is an acrylic paint. You can, and I have often used tempera, but as it happens, I had a jug of green or a jug of yellow and a jug of blue acrylic out. So I've just made it acrylic. So I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. Just like that, and you can see the brush has a little bit of the blue paint kind of mixed in it where I mixed it, and it's given it sort of an inconsistent color, and frankly I like that, so I'm not bothered by it at all. It will probably take a couple of coats to cover it completely because this paint is not as opaque as I might like, and I'll still be able to see some of that blue house paint underneath it. So I want to make sure that I've got a couple of coats of paint on it. I'm also going to be very careful to paint around the edges where I've trimmed it, because that's just raw paper and that's definitely going to need to be covered up. So this whole process is really not much to look at, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time, or I don't expect you to spend all of your time watching me paint, so feel free to hit the fast forward button there to the next step, or to at least to the conclusion. You can see how it is that I do things. I'm working my way from the top to the bottom just to be kind of methodical about it. There's not a wrong way to do it, as long as you get all of it. And you want to make sure you've got a good thorough coat of your base color. And as it happens, this blue undercoat doesn't clash too terribly badly with the green, and it doesn't interfere with it. It's not going to change it a whole lot. So I'm not too worried if it's thin and, you know, here and there. But it isn't the color I want, so I'm not going to leave it bare anywhere. And it's possible that I could work this color into the design, and if you can, that's entirely okay to leave the undercolor as part of the color you have. There's no rule says you can't. I'm just not going to. I don't want any of this pale blue showing on my tiki. I may come back later and add some to it. I probably won't, but I mean, I could. So what you do with your tiki is kind of up to you. Notice I'm putting this on here really thick, and that's because I want a good heavy coat of this green color, and it serves multiple purposes. I want to have a heavy color. I want to cover up this blue, and the more paint that goes on my tiki, the smoother he will ultimately be, and that is desirable to me. I want it to feel like it's not made out of paper, and the smoother the seams and edges are, the less papery it's going to look. Now this acrylic paint is going to dry with a matte finish. It's a very flat color, and you could get acrylic paint, especially hobby stop type paint, that is not a matte finish. You could even have a glossy finish, and there's no prohibition against that. I make all of my tikis kind of a flat color. It just seems to hold. Like if I paint on them with markers or whatever. It just holds the color a little better, but there's nothing saying it couldn't be glossy. And sometimes after I'm finished painting my tiki, I might go back and put a gloss coat on it, and that sometimes looks really good. It's a matter of what you like and what you want. And I like a matte finish to start with, and sometimes I'll put a glossy coat after the fact just because I like that too. Now this paint is not super carefully mixed. I intentionally didn't overblend it because that little variety in the color actually adds some visual interest. It's just something that I kind of like it. If you don't want a little variety in your color, you might mix your colors a little more carefully than I have. That's one of those things. It's like, well, you're tiki, you decide whatever pleases you. But I wanted green, and I kind of like the blue and paler green streaks in the green. It has a very almost like grass look to it, and that appeals to me. So there you go. And I'm putting it on pretty heavy, and the paint is sagging in quite a few places. So after I've got it all on there, I'll go back around it and make sure that I've got all those saggy spaces smoothed out as best I can. I don't particularly want paint sag, but it is almost inevitable when you put it on as heavy as I'm putting it on. And you can do that or not. I have seen paint sag incorporated into the design, and if that's your jam, make it happen. Me, I want mine relatively smooth. I'm okay with color variations because color variations are cool, but saggy paint to me looks like saggy paint, and saggy paint just says I'm not paying attention or doing it carefully. And trying to put this where you can see it. There we go, right there. The more, the merrier. Except for paint sag, I don't want that. I want plenty of paint, and I'm putting the paint on this thing really heavy, and as you can tell, really fast. This whole entire tiki painting process it's not going to take me probably 5-10 minutes tops. Okay, maybe 10 minutes. Now this will take overnight to dry, which is just fine because it's the end of the day. And I'm going to get this coat of paint on it, and we'll let it dry overnight, and tomorrow we'll start painting our shapes and designs that will be complementary shapes and tiki type designs. If you're wondering what tiki designs are, go back and look at the first PowerPoint about tiki, and you'll see a variety of designs, especially towards the end of the presentation in the PowerPoint. It has a whole lot of different designs that are complementary and all the things that go with tiki. I don't want to get this all over my hands because it is acrylic and can be kind of hard to wash off. So I'm just going to get this on here. This whole process shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes. You do want to be thorough. I don't want to leave any part of my tiki unpainted except the bottom. You do not, for any reason, have to paint the bottom, but you do want to be thorough inside the mouth area here. You don't want a bunch of drips and sags, so you want to... I'm using a fairly soft brush, and that soft brush kind of lends itself to smoothing the paint. If you're using a coarse boar bristle brush, it will leave a lot of brush marks in the paint, and for some applications that's cool, but I don't want that on this. That's not what I'm looking for. Up to you. All right, starting to settle in. You can see, maybe you can, I don't know, you can kind of see how the paint is a little variegated. Maybe you can't, I don't know. Depends on the resolution both of this video and your monitor. I don't really know. I'm gonna turn around there. Get all inside the mouth. doing pretty good. I'm very happy. It looks like I mixed up pretty much exactly the right amount of paint. I'll have some left over tomorrow and I can add yellow or blue or whatever colors I want. My tiki is going to have an entirely green theme. So I will use colors that complement green like red and colors that create green like blue and yellow. So works out pretty good. Make sure that's separated there. See inside the mouth there. I'm trying to get all of that. And I'm going to pull the brush this kind of across the mouth to make sure that it's all smoothed out in there. And it will run and sag a little bit inside the mouth especially, and I don't really care. I just don't want sags out here where I can see them real well. And I've got quite a few trying to grow on the sides. This soft bristle brush helps that a lot. Yeah, I got quite a few on this side. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of always trying to pull the paint down with this tiki because gravity is going to do that anyway, and I'm just kind of helping it be smooth and nice. In the top of my tiki, I'm going to make kind of a radial distribution so that it's a little more evenly spaced, and when it dries that radial pattern will still be there, and it'll, frankly, it looks kind of cool. Can't really see what I'm doing, I'm sorry, but the camera's a little low. But there's kind of what it looks like. If you can see that, I don't know. All right, so moving on. I'm gonna get the last little part here, the front, and then I'm going to sit it down, and I'm literally going to paint it to the table. The paint's going to go all the way around the sides, and that'll be fine because tomorrow when I pop it loose from the table, it'll have a nice perfect flat edge, and that's what I want. So I'm going to use the brush to kind of balance it in the top. Just like that. Let's see if this, you can see what's going on here. There we go. And you can see there's a bit of a mess here on the top. We'll smooth that out. We want everything smooth, no big runs or globs if we can avoid it. And a few little goobs here and there is not a big deal. Because when we go to paint the patterns on it, we'll hide a lot of that. But we want to avoid them where we can. We don't want to overwhelm it when we don't have to. You can see here I'm painting it right to the table. If you don't want to do that, you could just put it on a piece of paper and paint it to that piece of paper. And when you lift it up, it'll have a nice, clean, smooth, straight edge. And that's entirely okay too. You want to make sure you get underneath the edge here, anywhere it's harder to see. Make sure you get plenty of paint on that. And I've got a real variegation, which is to say a lot of stripedy kind of mismixed shapes going on here, and that's not shapes, stripes. And that's okay. I don't mind that. I do have some thin spots. I'm going to try and smooth that out a little bit. And what I'll do is, everywhere I see blobs of paint, I'll just try and smooth them out around the paint around it, and that leaves a few interesting little marks of its own. I'm not trying to make it perfectly smoothly painted. I just want it completely painted, and I want most of the blobs and goobs and drips smoothed out. And that's it. This doesn't photograph, at least it doesn't video. You can't really see it nearly as well as if I had some still photos, which I don't have the means to blend that into the video. I will post some photos with the on canvas so that you can see what it looks like. And eventually I'll figure out how to put still photos in the videos. But for now, just take my word for it. It's got some pretty interesting patterns in the paint that come from the paint being mixed and not entirely perfectly, which is to me a desirable outcome. There we go. I think that's pretty good. You can kind of see what's going on there. I'll put my brush and paint away. As you can see, tiki. Kind of hard to see, but it's painted on there pretty heavily. And tomorrow this dude will be a nice flat green that I like. Let's turn him around a little bit. There you go, Tiki.